Have you ever thought about whether your generosity might actually be hurting your children? Picture this. You're on the verge of retirement, aiming to ensure a prosperous future for your kids. But what if I told you there are 7 things you should never give them? For their own well-being, you might be shocked by this revelation. But before we dive in, I want you to focus closely on this story. It's essential to grasp the key lesson of this video. Elena, a woman newly retired and eager to help her children, planned to gift them money and property, believing this was the best way to secure their future. Sound familiar? However, before Elena could implement her plan, her wise neighbor, Don Javier, offered her a piece of advice. That left her puzzled. "Elena," he said gently, "sometimes giving too much is like overwatering a plant. Instead of helping it thrive, you could end up choking it." Could it be that Elena's generosity was about to become a trap for her kids? Before we go any further, if you find value in these videos, please subscribe and hit the bell icon to stay updated. With a heart full of love and the best intentions, Elena decided to give Carlos a substantial sum of money upon his retirement. "Now you can finally chase your dreams," she told him excitedly. But what Elena didn't foresee was that this act would set off a chain of events that would forever alter Carlos's life. Overjoyed by this unexpected windfall, Carlos decided to quit his job. Why keep struggling? He thought. Unknowingly, he fell into the trap of easy money. What seemed like a blessing quickly became a curse. This phenomenon, known as rich heir syndrome, is more common than you might think. In fact, it even has a name in psychology. Dr. Roy Williams, the author of Preparing Your Kids for $1 Billion, states that 70% of wealthy families lose their wealth by the second generation and 90% by the third. But why does this happen? Well, imagine being given a huge cake every day. Initially, you'd be thrilled, right? But over time, not only would you lose interest in baking, but you'd probably face several health issues. Money works similarly. The famous psychologist Abraham Maslow once said, "If the only tool you have is a hammer, you tend to see every problem as a nail." In Carlos's case, his new tool was money, and suddenly all his problems seemed solvable with cash. He lost the ability to tackle challenges, grow and find fulfillment in personal achievement, but not all hope is lost. As the saying goes, it's better to teach someone to fish than to just give them a fish. Elena could have chosen to teach Carlos financial skills, foster his entrepreneurial spirit, or even invest in a business together. These options would not only provide financial support, but also impart valuable life lessons. The philosopher Seneca, over 2,000 years ago, warned about the dangers of wealth without wisdom. It is not the man who has little, but the man who craves more, who is poor. Carlos had plenty, but in losing his purpose, he found himself poorer than ever. Are you considering giving a big gift to your children? Before you do, ask yourself, am I giving them a safety net or a gilded cage? Am I offering them a springboard to chase their dreams, or a comfortable couch where their ambitions will sleep? Remember, the real gift is not the money itself, but the tools to create it, multiply it, and use it wisely. As the tycoon Warren Buffett once said, "I will leave my children enough money to do something, but not so much that they do nothing." Now, let's talk about the trap of gifted properties. Picture this scene. Elena, recently retired and full of good intentions, decides to surprise her daughter Anna with a gift that seems straight out of a fairy tale. "Honey, I want to give you our summer house on the beach. It's yours now." Anna, thrilled, imagines herself enjoying long afternoons by the sea. But what if this dream turned into a financial nightmare? As the philosopher Seneca once said, "He is not poor who has little, but he who desires much." And Anna was on the verge of wishing she hadn't received that gift. What Elena didn't think about were the hidden costs that came with that property: annual taxes, constant maintenance, unexpected repairs. Suddenly, that dream home became a bottomless pit that devoured Anna's savings. But let's not jump ahead of ourselves. This scenario is not as uncommon as you might think. In fact, a recent study showed that inherited properties often become a source of family conflict. Sound familiar? Well, get ready, because the Martinez family's story will blow your mind. The Martinez family epitomized a close-knit unit until their grandfather passed away and left them his old house. What seemed like a gesture of love turned into a battleground. Who would cover the repairs? Who would live there? Should they sell it? Family gatherings went from moments of joy to sessions of shouting and slamming doors. In the end, the property meant to unite them ended up dividing them. Now, don't get me wrong. Giving away property isn't inherently bad. The problem arises when you don't consider the bigger picture. As psychologist Abraham Maslow would say, if you only have a hammer, you tend to see every problem as a nail. In this case, the hammer is good intention, but the problem is much more complicated than a single nail. The key is financial education. Before gifting property, it's crucial to ensure the recipient is prepared to handle it. Do they have the means to maintain it? Do they understand the responsibilities involved? Have they considered the tax implications? Returning to Elena and Anna, imagine if, instead of simply giving the house away, Elena involved Anna in the decision-making process. They could have explored options, together selling the property and splitting the proceeds, creating a fund for its upkeep, or even turning it into a family. Vacation rental business, open communication, and joint planning could have transformed this potential disaster into an opportunity for family growth. As the philosopher Epictetus wisely said, wealth does not consist in having great possessions, but in having few needs. Perhaps the real gift is not the property itself, but the lessons in financial responsibility and family communication that can arise from these situations. Let's return to Elena's story. Elena, with all her good intentions, had always been there to solve every problem that came their way, from minor conflicts at school to major decisions in adult life. Elena was the superhero who swooped in to save the day. Sounds nice, doesn't it? But as the saying goes, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. It turns out there's a term for this: helicopter parenting. And no, it's not about parents flying around in fancy helicopters, although that would be quite amusing. It refers to parents constantly hovering over their children's lives, ready to step in and solve any problems that arise. But what's the issue with being so attentive and helpful? Well, imagine you're in a gym with a personal trainer who, instead of teaching you how to lift weights, lifts them for you. Do you think you'd build muscle? Of course not. In the same way, when we solve all of our children's problems, we rob them of the chance to develop their emotional muscles and problem-solving skills. A study by the University of Florida revealed something surprising. Young adults raised by overprotective parents tend to have more difficulty handling the stresses and strains of everyday life. It's as if we gave them a map to navigate life, but took away their compass. Back to our friend Elena. She began to notice something troubling. Carlos, her oldest son, seemed incapable of making decisions on his own. Whenever he faced a challenge at work, he'd call Elena in a panic. Anna, on the other hand, avoided any situation that might prove difficult. The thought of moving out on her own or looking for a new job paralyzed her with fear. And Luis, the youngest son, observed how his mother handled Carlos's crises. Although he tried to be more independent, Elena always found a way to help, even when he didn't ask. Psychologist Alfredo Oliva explains that overprotection may seem like love, but it's really fear that our children will suffer, fear that they will fail. But failure and suffering are essential parts of learning and growth. So what can we do? Should we let our children crash into every obstacle? Not exactly. The key is finding balance. Elena decided to step back. The next time Carlos called her about a problem at work, instead of giving him the solution, she asked, "What do you think you should do?" With Anna, she encouraged her to face small challenges, celebrating each little triumph. And with Luis, well, we'll see what happens next. Before continuing with the story, if you like this video, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel with the bell icon so you don't miss future videos. And if you enjoy this kind of content as much as I do, comment "I love these stories." Also, let me know what you'd like to see in the next videos. I read all your comments. Let's keep learning together.